First off, I'd just like to have one small explanation. People were taking these, they're not giveaways for this show, sadly, so before you leave the gallery, if you could put them back, I'll put a label for the actual gallery show so it's a little bit more clear. But yeah, so my show is kind of centralizing around the idea of contemporary femininity and what it means to me to be a woman, and kind of how I found confidence in that. And so I think I'm just going to go back and explain. My sophomore year, when I started working more conceptually, rigorously with my work, I started thinking about, started thinking more internally and what I wanted to be making work about, and kind of like what I wanted to be doing with my art. And I started realizing that something I could do with my art was like confront problems. And so I started making a lot of work about my relationship with myself and with my body, and my relationship with food, and kind of like the social constructs around certain body types. And so this is a piece from my sophomore year that I made kind of about that. And I realized it was kind of like what Nick was saying, like really, I found a lot of catharsis in it. And I kind of realized that I can make art and like really solve problems in my life, and like kind of like move forward from things by making art. And it kind of just, I mean, like I've always loved making things. You know, the process of making art has been really important to me, but I think being able to use that process in a positive way was something that I just found like so exciting. And so from that, I kind of wanted to take a step in like a larger direction and start confronting more social issues, and specifically around women's rights. And so I started working a lot with women's work, with like needlework and embroidery, and even in this collection of portraits, kind of like airing towards the idea of like quilt work or like wallpapers, and kind of thinking about kind of commemorating the women of the past, and how impressive all of this work is, because like, for one thing, embroidery takes forever, and it's super tedious, and there are so many different things you can learn. You can spend a lifetime just learning how to do like one style of embroidery. But also kind of recognizing the limitations of that, and kind of the limitations that were put on women, which is why I kind of think that I don't just do embroidery. I tend to do like layering, and kind of, I want to move past that, and kind of like recognizing that there should be progress past that. And again, towards that kind of limitation, I started also putting kind of piece of domesticity in my work, specifically this table, and again, the kind of wallpaper-esque collection of portraits, and kind of thinking about like, you know, where a woman's place is, and whether or not that's like a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, and basically, my overall goal was to create like an empowering space for anyone who walks in, and kind of start a dialogue about women's rights, and yeah, so.
What are the pieces above and below your woodcut?
Oh, this is actually there are cutouts on the top of this hanging box that you can actually go inside. So it's something you're supposed to. It's a little bit of a struggle to like get underneath, but they're cutouts from the ceiling. I kind of just wanted to like have a little echo of the piece on the wall. Andrew?
Could you talk about your table?
Yes. So this is actually a self-portrait, so it's a portrait of me, and I kind of wanted to be talking about the idea of gender roles, and again, like what it means to be a woman, and kind of, so on the words say, I build the table, I bake the bread, and I sew the cloth. And so I built the table myself, and I wood burned the portrait, and I made the cloth, and I embroidered it. And at the show, there will actually be, I made shortbread this morning, and so anyone who sits down at the table will be served a piece of shortbread. But it was basically, again, talking about that kind of idea of like a woman's place, and like what they're capable of. And I think that I kind of just had this image one night that I was like, I'm gonna build a table, like I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna learn how to do that. even if it is portrayed as, a somewhat masculine thing or something that, a woman wouldn't always do. But at the same time, like, I do enjoy embroidery and I do enjoy baking, and like, why does it have to be one or the other? Like, why would I have to be completely masculine in order to prove a point? So yeah.
There's a very repeated blues and pinks in all of your work. Could you explain the significance of that?
I think just in general, I think it's a very comforting color combination for me, and I'm just drawn to those colors. But even like what I was talking about kind of creating an empowering space, I think the reason that all the colors that I use are so bright, especially the blues and the pinks, is just kind of to add to that like welcomeness about my work. So, Sophie.
I was just wondering, because when you went to Oxbow and kind of like started to make different work, I saw a lot more text, and out in the atrium as well, you have this kind of hidden yet unhidden text, and I was just wondering how language works in your work and how that kind of changed.
Yeah. Well, those pieces, so as Sophie said, I started working with more because I worked basically only with portraiture my junior year, or the beginning of my junior year and my sophomore year, and I went to a semester program in California, and I started kind of working with more abstract work as a way to like challenge myself, but I was trying to find like a segue into that. And so I think that for me, language was a really accessible way to do that, and it was a way for me to put a lot of myself into an abstract idea. And so those paintings out there were a lot about, I would just write things down that were like I was having issues with, and just start like keep pouring things out of me until it kind of came to a fully realized point. It was kind of like having therapy with myself. But I think off of that, text became a really important part of my work, and language kind of as a way to be accessible for the viewer, because it is a very direct thing. And also I think it echoes like kind of like political posters, and it's something that kind of goes towards the idea of activism. So.
Can you talk about incorporating input from other people in your life? So like the portraits of your friends, or the quotes from friends on the tapestries and stuff like that, or just drawing your friends that you do all the time. Can you talk about how that can be?
I think a lot of that was kind of my step away from not just doing autobiographical work, because I wanted to start creating kind of an image of a community and the community that I'm a part of. And so I think having other people, especially people that I'm actually surrounded by, was a really important part of that.
Can you talk about your blueprint series and how you put that together?
Blaine mentioned it a little bit, but I photographed some of my queer friends on campus, because I am a queer woman, so it is another community that's really important to me. And it was kind of, I made the paper myself, and I waxed it, and I embroidered it, and it was a very like hand-done process, and for me it was kind of about showing the idea of like creating a space or a community from scratch, and kind of finding safety in that. So. Kaylee, sorry.
Okay,
Over.
all right. I have to ask, are you looking at Judy Chicago and Marina Abramovich?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then my question Sophie had kind of asked already, but I was just wondering, since I haven't really seen you since Oxbow, how that changed what that experience did to kind of redirect your work or influence your work.
Oxbow or the text stuff?
Oxbow.
Yeah, I think for me it was just kind of like a breath of fresh air, because I got to, for one thing, it was in California, so it was, instead of being in the middle of winter, it was like, I got a chance to breathe. But I think I just really wanted to take that time to, because it was somewhere so different from what I was used to, I wanted to take that time to kind of like challenge things that I was used to. So what I was saying with like, moving away from portraiture is I found a lot of comfort in that, and I think that that's really great, and I think it's really great that I can find comfort in what I'm doing, but it also was it was coming to a point where it was kind of scary for me, where I was like, is this too comfortable? So I think that kind of experience kind of just taught me how to take risks more, while recognizing what's good and what's bad. So, yeah.
Could you talk about these small works on this wall here? Who are these people? Is there significance to the specific people you chose, or what are these paintings of?
Yeah. So, as a lot of people might know, I work a lot in my sketchbook, and so one of the things that constantly comes up in my sketchbook is I'm just like drawing these portraits of girls. It's just like something I really enjoy doing. It's something that's really fun. It's something that, you know, I can just come back and, like, to my room at the end of the night and just like draw some pictures, and it's just like, it's very calming for me. And I think it, you know, it was something that I always did on the side. And I wanted to include that process in my thesis, because I realized it was me wanting to create portraits of powerful women, and of, you know, I think that a lot of these portraits are very confrontational, and these women seem very, you know, full of pride, but a lot of them aren't, you know, they're either, you know, made up or kind of, you know, referenced from photos, but not completely, and I think there are only 2 or 3 of them that are people that I actually know. So sometimes I do portraits of people that I actually know, but usually they're kind of just characters. But yeah, anyone else?
Can you talk about the paintings in your move from really figurative work to more abstract?
Yeah, so I think just from, because I used to mostly just do paintings and just do portraiture, and I think that, as I was saying, like, my move to abstract work was just kind of about taking a risk, but I think that it also kind of made me fall in love with painting again, because I think I was hitting like a stalemate with it, and I think it kind of helped me realize that, like, the process was so important to me, that just like moving paint around is something that I really enjoy, that it's not just about rendering something. But like this box piece is like, it's still, for me, it's still a representation of something. It was, you know, I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look inside, but it's a collection of abstract paintings. But I think the piece as a whole was more about like me and like how I tend to internalize things, and how, you know, that, you know, what that means to me, and kind of inviting people into that. So I think it's less about, it's kind of a less direct way for me to approach things, and I think sometimes that can be more valuable and more successful for me. So just like another tool on my tool belt.